Education is dead without poetry. Let me tell you why. First, it's important to understand what education is, and you probably, when I say the word education, have an idea of it in your head already, but let's make sure that we're on the same page. So if I pull a dictionary out and ask what's education, education, according to Merriam-Webster, is the process of educating, awesome, teaching, knowledge, etc., thus developed, or formal schooling. Awesome. And to be educated is having much education, or based on experience. And to educate, the verb, is to develop the knowledge, skill, or character of, especially by formal schooling. To teach, to pay for the schooling of, okay? So education is very general. You know, education happens implicitly and explicitly. We participate in it all the time. And we pay a fair amount of money to educate each other in the form of public schools, taxes for public schools. So education by nature is not too specific as to what it must entail. All the things that come with education that you think of, whether it be curriculum or time of day, what part of your life you spend being educated, whether that's required school attendance as a child, higher education, all of these things fall under this grand umbrella of education. And I say it's dead without poetry. So before I talk about what poetry is, I want to address a bigger picture view of education. And there's a quote that I really enjoy by a gentleman whose name escapes me. But he says that the purpose of education is to commingle with the universe. Now, I really like that because we get purpose in there. And, you know, purpose is a funny thing because we love to argue over purpose. What was the purpose of this action, of this policy, of this quote, of this thing you said? What was its purpose? And then we like to, you know, say, no, that wasn't the purpose. Even if that's what you said, that's not the purpose. So the purpose of education is to co-mingle with the universe. Very general, but also very beautiful, because what is this life if not a commingling with one another, with ourselves, with the impulses, with the drives, with the expression that we just get forced into by being alive. So I like that, and I'm going to stick with it. The purpose of education is to commingle with the universe, and the reason I say it is dead, deceased, zilch, a corpse, is because we are not doing that in our current education system. We are not teaching how to commingle with the universe. We are not teaching that commingling with the universe is an idea or an ideal of value. Young people are brought up in this country, specifically, I can only speak on the education in my country of the United States. Young people are brought up and they are layered with these ideas of what the world is and what it is to be a human. Now, I'm not saying that we can escape some sort of indoctrination. And that word is very negative nowadays, but you know, we can't help but put our beliefs on others. You know, that's just a natural process of sharing. But what I fear is that education is putting far too many beliefs and ideas and facts on young people, and not really giving them the tools to understand their agency, not giving them the place to express their unique voice, their unique perspective, not giving them the understanding that they are, by nature of being a human, powerful. We don't seem to want people to deeply feel their own power. And I know that in expressing this right now, in choosing to post on YouTube this idea about education, I am brushing up against this wall that says it's too big. Don't try to change something that's so much bigger than you. It's what do we care what you have to say, right? Meanwhile, when I spend time in schools with these kids, I want them to care what they have to say, because all I see, the majority of what I see, is young people afraid to take a stand on anything, afraid to stand on something that they believe, afraid to express, question, to challenge in a meaningful, respectful, reverent way. Education now is not teaching people to imagine, to see a world and to imagine a better one, and to understand that they have the capacity to set that in motion. They are being told, these are the tools that we have to work with. Learn how to use them or fall behind. Fall behind of what? Well, nobody can really say. It's this endless wave of progress, of advancement, of technological growth and development. We love these words. Growth and development, we apply them to devices, we apply them to human beings, and we can't seem to distinguish between the two anymore. We can't seem to distinguish which ones we care about more. And from where I'm standing, and from where a lot of young people, young children are standing, their minds, their hearts, their ideas about the world pale in comparison to a chatbot, to some device built to throw back exactly what you want to hear from it. Our insight, our analyzing, our pattern recognition, all of these tools that have brought us to this point, this precipice of something which feels crazy, all of that is being smothered, okay? Completely siphoned of all of its worth. Is that happening on purpose, explicitly? Are we naming that, designing that on purpose? I don't believe so. But in pursuing these things, we have neglected the heart, the creativity, the imagination, the wonder that humans needed to even get any of these things off the ground. All of the world that we live in right now was once an idea. The fact that I can do this and have a setup and, have lighting, all this stuff was once a fever dream. Someone woke up from a nightmare and said, holy crap, I had a dream that the whole world was watching me at once and every word I said impacted nations. Well, that would have been prophetic. Now it's a real thing that anyone can have in their hand. We're so inundated with ideas. And there is no filter between that inundation and a young mind anymore. Staff, teachers, administrators who have all the love and care and hope in their hearts for the betterment of children, they were not equipped to handle this. They were not equipped to be fortifying young minds against predatory advertisements, corporations who know exactly how child psychology works, market directly to children. Kids don't use textbooks the way they used to. Okay, so we have online encyclopedia platforms designed for young learners, but while you're scrolling that encyclopedia page, you will get an advertisement for Roblox. You will get an advertisement for Fortnite. You will be advertised to. You will be made to steer your attention away from the object of learning back into the world of entertainment, gaming, customization, all this stuff that people are so obsessed with. By design. It makes sense. You want to make more money? Expand your market. What's one of the biggest untapped markets in the world? Well, no longer untapped. Children, young people. Education is dead. Or it will be. Without poetry. Now, poetry is not a form of literature. I want to put that out immediately. The dictionary will tell you something to the extent of, Poetry is something speaking to, let me just pull it up, okay. Let's see. Poetry, the art, theory, or structure of poems, poetic qualities. So the word poetry is derivative of the poem, which is to make an arrangement of words, especially a rhythmical composition, sometimes rhymed, in a style more imaginative than ordinary speech or prose. So poetry, call it rhyming, call it metaphor, call it musical language, right? Poetry is not a literary form. I want you to consider the idea that poetry and a poet is not writing or someone who writes poems. I would consider myself a poet, but not because I write poetry. A poet exists before they write their first poem. And this is something that I'm still sort of wrestling with and coming to terms with. Calling myself a poet was weird at first because it has all these connotations. You learn about poets in school. Education teaches you about poets, but talk to anybody in high school, middle school, elementary, they don't really like poetry. They like songs, they like music, the radio and all these songs we listen to, but poetry as a form that's given to kids in school, it sucks, it's boring. And also, these great poets, they weren't speaking to young minds always. Some of them are, there's some great poetry for kids, but like if you study Edgar Allan Poe, funny, Poe was kind of built to be a poet. That's poetry right there. He was following in the footsteps of his own name. If that was his real name, I don't even know. But, you study Poe in middle school and you think, this guy's confusing, it's really depressing, I don't get it. Move on. You associate poetry with poems and poets? Well, you've just sucked the life out of something that literally has built the world we live in. So, what is poetry? Poetry is an outlook. Poetry is a view on the world. Poetry is the process of taking seemingly separate things and finding the ways in which they combine, intertwine, overlap, intersect, right? Poetry is looking at a road and writing a song about how life is like a road. Life is like traveling on a car on a road. We all intrinsically understand poetry. We all are touched by poetic language because it speaks to this facet of our being that wants to connect, wants to relate to everything around us, not just other people. Sure, there's love poetry and nature poetry and all of these things, but when I say education is dead without poetry, I'm saying education is dead without the intentional connecting of seemingly separate things, but as we know and as science tells us, as many things tell us, nothing is disconnected from the greater. That worm, that mushroom, that tree, that weather formation is not disconnected from everything else around it. It is in fact so tied, so deeply tied in ways that we have yet to fully unfurl. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling. And we sort of like, you learn something and you're like, okay, that can't be true. And then it's like, well, it is. And then you kind of retreat because our world doesn't want you to feel connected to everything else. Because if you're connected to everything else, then you have a stake in everything else. You are co-responsible for the state of other things. You have to look at yourself and say, that is the way it is because I am the way I am. And I am the way I am because that is the way it is. And that is a revolutionary idea. That you are responsible for things greater than yourself. In this country of individualism, which itself was a revolutionary idea at the time, but taken to the extreme, individualism separates us from everything else. And humanity was built on our connection with each other, with our tribes, with our communities. We are a cooperative species. We are a cooperative being that only has what we have because of our ability to cooperate, to conversate, to relate to one another without language. We don't even need language to do this. I can do it with my eyes. You can look at my face. You can see my gestures. You can taste my passion, my motivation for, it's like, why is this guy talking about this? I don't need to tell you why this is important to me. You can see that it's important to me in the way I move. You're feeling all of these things. Okay? And that's not something that you get taught how to do. It's intrinsic, but it can be smothered out of you. You can be tricked with that ability, let's call it. And in a world of AI, where a human's gestures, voice, speech, all these things can be digitally replicated, ooh, we're getting into some serious muck. All right? And it's not going to get any better before it gets worse. And when you factor that into education, right? I had this experience where I told students, hey, do you guys know that if you hum like every day, it improves your overall health and potential lifespan? No, what? No way. You're joking. Hey, look it up. Somebody look it up. And by the way, they can look it up instantly because they all have one-to-one computers that they can use. Computer assignments. What are you going to do this weekend? Probably play on my iPad. What are you going to do at school? Probably play on my Chromebook. Technology is, it's everywhere, right? And it's supposed to connect us. That's what's so amazing about these things, that they're branded to connect us, but at the same time, we can see in real time how it's like fragmenting us on a massive scale, on a deep level. We can't relate to each other without these devices to act as mediums. I can't look someone in the eyes. I can't be heart to heart, chest to chest, hand to hand without them feeling something's... Education is dead without poetry, without connectiveness, because this whole world is fragmenting us. I am fragmenting myself. When I choose to, sit and scroll or game versus develop an idea, because developing an idea is hard. Doing this is hard. Because you feel something huge and then you put it out into a world that wants to feel everything tiny, teeny, surface level, and then there's isolation. Then that feeling of disconnectedness is enhanced because you've tried to share something of your soul, of your deep being, and it was met with, what's this guy talking? What are you talking about? Or maybe it isn't. And then maybe you find something. Maybe I find something. Education is dead without poetry. You could say it's dying without poetry, but I just, gotta hit that hard punchline, it's dead. It's already long gone. What we knew of education, the system that we've built our entire job, merit-based system on, it's gone. It doesn't work. It's not convincing anymore. I graduated from college, and when I talk to high schoolers, I am not, doomsaying, but I'm like, let's be real. Why are you doing it? What are you doing it for? Because when I look at my college experience, I'm not grateful for that education. All of those things I learned, could have learned another way for a lot less money. What I got was some of the best friends I have ever known, and probably will be in my life forever. What I got was, I got to see myself argue, present an idea, present a case in front of my peers, in front of authorities, in front of people that will then look back and tell me, no, I don't think so, or yeah, that's a really good point. And to be able to stand and present something, stand behind your idea, it's a powerful thing. College can teach you that. College can connect you with opportunities that you didn't even know existed. It can connect you with communities that you didn't even know could possibly exist. People who think like you, do like you, want to live like you could maybe find that in college. So all of these things that, called higher education, it's not as much the courses and the facts that you learn and memorize and get tested on. Almost all of that is gone unless I really try to tap back into it. But what remains is this sense of I have agency, that inspiration that I might have gotten from a really great professor or a classmate that inspired me. All of those things are powerful and are absolutely worth pursuing. But education as this key to a door to a greater, it's gone. It's not there anymore. Because in this highly specialized world, people who naturally might not jive with that are made to feel like they can't participate. You know, you go to school and there's this myriad of degrees. They say, look at all these options you have. Look at all these paths you can pursue. And it's like, the question is, well, for what, you know? For what? All right, so I get this highly specialized degree. The job market is tanking because people are choosing to employ AI over actual human beings with experience. So now I'm going to work a menial job that doesn't tap the skills that I learned, and I'm going to feel like I wasted time, money, potential, my own light, my own spark, my own spirit, and now what am I going to do? Nobody's answering that question, and it's a very real question that it impacts a lot of people. And you take a child, you take a young person who has no choice but to put their life and their trust in the hands of the adult world, their parents. Is that fair? To me, it's utterly abhorrent. I mean, I'm a substitute, so I have no real stake in a classroom in the progress of specific students, but I have had the opportunity to work from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade and everything in between. And what I see is a systematic suppression of creativity, individuality, uniqueness, silliness, flair, imagination as you progress through the grades. There are some phenomenal artists in middle school, but my heart aches knowing that side of them will be pushed out, smothered as they grow, because they will be expected to do these things, write these essays, learn these mathematical equations that ultimately will serve them no purpose. And what they might have contributed to the world, the gifts that they were endowed with of depicting, you know, graphic novels, human faces, stories, theater, acting, all of these amazing gifts are now going to feel to them like you know, secondhand material, something to not really develop because it won't make them money. It won't give them security. It won't do these things. Security, money, retirement, family, home, all of these things. It's look around. It's not real security because the people with those things don't feel secure. This world we live in is deeply insecure. You want to know why? Because we've told ourselves and all of our young people that you get enough facts, you get enough knowledge, you accumulate knowledge and merit and skills, you'll be safe. Well, that is if international crises overseas don't affect our energy supplies, and the very markets that you worked your whole life into investing in and developing are kind of scrambling because the very fuel that we use to power everything, our food, our technology, our cars, our transport, our buildings, our home, our literal climate, whoops! Whoops, we can't get along, so none of it matters. Whoops, we're fighting with people that don't look like us, sound like us, think like us, talk like us, so we're fighting and our energy's gone. Where is education preparing people for that? Where is education preparing people that the world is chaotic inherently, and that every few decades or so some crazy thing happens that forces you to reconsider what you took for granted, what you felt to be secure? It's not there. You will die. Everyone in this world will die and continue to die. There is no technology advancement that will stop that. And to pursue such a thing is to ignore all the living while they're alive, is to ignore all the feelings and the hearts and the hopes that are existing in this world right now. It's to you smother those for the sake of some fallacy. Education is dead because it is teaching students that this world is subject, 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 object, you versus object. You figure out things so you can acquire things so that you can have things and not die. It's bullshit. Education has so much potential. You send students to a school every day with the same people, with the same peers, ripe with potential to create community, to foster heart and imagination and true security in each other, trust in each other, trust in oneself, trust in the capacity of oneself, trust in one's own voice, one's own ideas, one's own expression, because these are the things that move the world. An education that teaches you literature, mathematics, science, and health all in silos, all in isolation, is neglecting the fact that all of these things combine in this experience, in this body, in me. Health means nothing without tying it back to my own everyday experience. Science means nothing without showing me how I am a part of this world that I live in. Mathematics means nothing if it does not show me how higher order thinking and patterns and there's order and music to the world. Mathematics and music go hand in hand, and we find that to be useless to teach kids. We leave that to the Instagram reels that they'll scroll on. We leave all the imagination stuff to the TikTokers and the YouTubers that put those things together later on. Education demands young people to grow up and unlearn so many things before they can actually start their life. Imagine if we recognized that, recognized the amount of unlearning you have to do because of your required school, and we said, let's try to slow that down. Because from where I'm standing, education doesn't really give you much besides a huge list of things to cross off of your truth list. I don't know. When you poeticize education, you tie all of these things, all of this knowledge back to one's experience. Because you get down the question list of why that children are so adept at asking, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? And you get to like, because I don't know what's going on in my body, in the world, in my mind, and I would like to figure it out so that I don't feel crazy all the time. And when you take subjects that are desperate to be interconnected, you know, literature goes hand in hand with health. It goes hand in hand with mathematics, because there is formula to writing. There is an understanding that, you know, you build up apprehension, and then there's this moment of climax, and then you relax, just like in a song, just like in an orchestral piece, just like in an EDM piece. There's a build up, there's a drop, there's a release, there's a wave, there's tension, there's release. All of these things go hand in hand. Education is dead without poetry. Education doesn't work unless the people who are participating in that education understand its importance and accept its validity. And let me tell you, from observation, from my direct experience in my one district, kids do not understand that learning is important. They reject so much of the material that they're forced to learn and test on. And I know that this has always been the case to some extent. You know, you're like, boo-hoo, school, I have to do this hard stuff. Great. But when I was in school, there was no, like, I remember Photomath came out. It was this app that you could take a picture of an equation and it would like kind of solve it for you and show you the steps, and that was wild. And you felt dirty for using that on math homework. But when a technology can synthesize anything you ask it, supposedly, and can create from nothingness, seemingly, this extensive paper, research, citations, a young mind doesn't then compute that they need to participate in that process. Well, if education is to teach me how to help the world be better and innovate, well, someone kind of did the ultimate thing that removes the need for me to learn stuff, because I can just pull whatever I need when I need it. That's a real, if I can make that, what do you call it? If I can follow what I think might be a line of thinking of a kid, or an implicit understanding of a kid, and find that, I'm sure it's happening somewhere. Have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter? Are you a grown adult? Are you someone with a job, with something to say, and you still feel like what you have to say doesn't matter? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've been afraid to express how you feel, because I have. I do. Education is dead without poetry. Education is dead without viewing the world as a combined, commingling endeavor. A poet is not someone who writes poems. A poet is someone who, well, let's refer to the definition. A poet is one who writes poems or verses, yes, but also one who displays imaginative power and beauty of thought. That's my type of tea right there. That's my flavor of tea right there. Imaginative power. There is imagination, and then there's the power of imagination, because we can imagine a spaceship, and we can imagine a skyscraper, and we can imagine the bottom of the ocean and go get it. These are magnificent accomplishments. A lot of data has shown that this generation, Gen Z, my generation, has less cognitive capacity and ability than all the previous generations before them, which is the first time that this has happened. And many people are tying that directly to technology, to this format. This very thing that I speak to you on is the reason I have to speak on this. And that's a trip, and I'm still dealing with it. The world is begging to be in conversation with us. Poetry is to be in conversation with the world around us, to see the plant and the insect, the sky, the mountain, the ocean, and to also see a reflection of oneself, because it is there. If one person can find it, then it is there. Because we are so much more alike, we are so much more connected than we accept. We're afraid to see that because it's so powerful. We're afraid to see that we are bigger than we are. This might even be our greatest fear, because it is easier to wake up, to get through the day, and to fall asleep when all you are is that small little cog in the machine. To admit to oneself that there is something greater than you, that you are a participant in, a necessary element of, well, that is just too daunting of a task. But education holds the structural potential to show young people that they are indeed powerful. Their voice does move the world, and that there is so much more to learning and to acquiring knowledge than just succeeding on a test, bringing up data. We have to teach them that, because if we don't, we are failing ourselves and every generation to follow. We are not just addressing issues of the now. We are participants in a long, long human story. And if we neglect that, as we are, not good. Poetry is all around us. Commingling with the universe it's an opportunity at every road. Every time you wake up, you can thank something. You can say hi to something. That bird might say hi back. It's up to you. Education is dead without poetry. Education could be alive. Could be an organism that grows, learns, takes beatings, and develops. Let me close by reading something that I wrote last September of 2025. September of 2025, I was earlier on in my substitute teaching career. I feel like it kind of addresses everything I just talked about. It is quite a delight to substitute teach. Being in a place of learning without the authority of the teacher, it gives one an opportunity to connect with young learners from a place of peerhood. I am no different from them, and perhaps I know less They have the opportunity to guide me, and in exchange, I can offer insights from my own life and experience. I really want to be involved more. I want to share what I have to say with these kids, with the ones who come after me, to share how it was before, what it feels like now, and my vision of what it could be. Kids are subjected to so much turmoil nowadays. It is in their pockets, the whole world at their fingertips more literally than ever. And yet, are there resources and mentors to counterbalance this information overwhelm with the tools on how to be? To remind them of their power that has been slowly pulled from their hands. Go out into the world and change it, but how? How, when I am just a leaf drifting in the wind? Perhaps our young people need to know that they can be the wind itself. The forces stirring the lands, cooling them, heating them, bringing comfort and relief to tired bodies and sweaty brows. There is a unified front of forces endeavoring to remove our sense of power and agency. Preferring military to crime prevention over community outreach, tenderness, and caring. Stopping force with force is an endless downhill spiral. Behaviors in the classroom, do we meet them with force or tenderness, wittiness, a curious spirit invested in bettering itself, carrying the understanding that bettering oneself is betterment for all? I want to speak to these kids, tell them of what little I know, what little we all know, and that to be them is okay. It is prudent and necessary. To be them is essential for the betterment and fulfillment of this whole world. Education is living with poetry. See ya.